All right, I do have 10 o'clock. I'll call this meeting to order. I just wanted to notice, we do have, some online participation, with Commissioners Steve Holland, Roger Nelson, and JJ Waldham. They are joining us via internet, interactive technology. So, on the agenda, it shows where them guys are located and they have their doors open if someone wants to go join them. With that, we will rise for the pledge.
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, at this time, we do have public forum. I know we got one in the room here. Denise, you can come up if you want.
Good morning, guys.
Morning.
Did you miss
Morning.
week? It was too cold. I wasn't gonna come out. Okay, Denise Weiss, Royalton Township. You know I'm here. You know I'm here about cannabis, but I'm tired of calling it cannabis. It's marijuana. It's like every company, they rebrand something and they call it a different name. So after a while, people just think that it's something not as harsh as what it is, but it is. It's marijuana. I have like 3 speeches set up. Wasn't certain which one I was going to do this week. But with a few things happening in our life, I think we're going to do this one. Has anybody ever been to a Teen Challenge event? Know what Teen Challenge is?
Yep.
Awesome. Been to 3, 4 of them overall. And Teen Challenge is for drug, alcohol addiction. And no matter how many testimonies I listen to and the heartbreak that you listen to, many times it's all about alcohol, it's about drugs. And in no cases have any of them ever been good for the family, good for the individual, good for the community. Many times it's generational addictions. Young people have started when they're 12 because their parents did it, and it's readily available in their home. And we're going to be, the county's going to be dealing with more of that. We have heard it's only marijuana, it's not that big a drug. Well, families have been affected, children are taken away, jobs are lost. It costs money through the system. I'm still very disappointed and wish and hope that you guys can relook at where this type of product is placed within a community. State of Minnesota has recommended that they be in industrial and commercial zoned areas. I don't know why we feel we know better that it doesn't have to be in only 250 feet from somebody's home on large scale production. I hope that that gets a chance to be relooked at in the short term before licenses go out, so that we aren't caught in a position that we would be considered being prejudiced against a particular individual applying for a license. Also, the mitigation. We very much have it set up that those under 20,000 square feet have to follow specific rules. Over maybe don't have to follow the same ones. I think that that is unfair. Whether you agree with the product or not, it should be equal mitigation across the board for whatever type of industry that you're running. Know you're up here. I know I'm going to keep coming in. I do believe in this. As my pastor always says, comes through my head all the time. He says, come on, y'all. Come on, y'all. You know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying is right. And so with that, I really hope that you guys have a chance to relook at that. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks, Denise.
Thank you.
I don't see any other public in the room. Ryan, do we have anybody online? Okay. All right. So with that, we'll move on to the agenda. Is there any additions or corrections?
Mr. Chair, there are no additions that I'm aware of.
I'll move. Okay.
I'll second.
All right. We got a motion by Ludwig, second by Holland. Any discussion? Okay. Deb, can you call the roll?
Commissioner Nelson,
Yes.
Commissioner Waldham,
Yes.
Commissioner Ludwig,
Aye.
Commissioner Holland,
Yes.
Chair Moore.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to E, approve the minutes of the January 21st, 2025 regular county board meeting and summary for publication and the January 28th, 2025 special meeting.
I'll move that.
Second.
All right, I got a motion by Holland, second by Nelson. Any discussion? Hearing none, go ahead and call the roll.
Commissioner Waldham,
Yes.
Commissioner Ludwig,
Aye.
Commissioner Holland,
Yes.
Chair Moore,
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson,
Yes.
Okay, now moving on to the minutes of boards, committees, and correspondence. We had the Minnesota Department of Human Services correspondence, Pine County Zoning Board minutes, and Pine County Surveyor's Report.
Ludwig will move.
Holland will second.
All right, we got a motion by Ludwig, second by Holland. Is there any discussion on them? Hearing none, go ahead and call the roll.
Commissioner Ludwig,
Aye.
Commissioner Holland,
Yes.
Chair Moore,
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson,
Yes.
Commissioner Waldham.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to the consent agenda.
Chair Moore,
Yes.
I guess a point of privilege. We have that, looking for it here in my agenda. On the consent, oh yes, it's number 5C. Could we move that to regular agenda? I just had some more questions and some discussion on that.
Yeah, sure. We will take then C on the consent agenda. Let's move it to 2.1 on the regular agenda. So it'll go right before commissioner updates if you guys wanna. I'll put it there,
Great.
and that sounds good. With that, did you want to make a motion for the consent agenda?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll move it.
I'll second.
All right, so we got a motion by Nelson, second by Waldham. Is there any discussion on the consent agenda? Actually, I have just one comment. I just wanted, when you guys look through the consent agenda, there is a tax forfeited repurchase on there. I just wanted to make the note because as a county board, we do get hammered on a lot that we just take people's property and it's a word, I was forfeit their property. Well, these couple properties went to forfeiture and our great team worked with the landowners to get a repurchase on these properties. So I just want to note that you know these guys are working really hard. They don't want to take people's property and we try anyways. So I think that's great. So
Mr. Chair?
yes, go ahead.
Yes. So then what was the prices of repurchase? What was the dollar amount on those? It wasn't in the resolution.
Is it in the
No.
packet?
No.
But I would have that on my desk.
Okay, so it's the taxes that they owed back. So
Yeah, the dollar amount?
you need the dollar amount?
I guess it's a question. Do we usually, when the county sells something, there's a dollar amount?
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
Commissioner Waldham, technically, we're not selling these properties. We're letting the property owner repurchase them, which is allowed under the process. And so Kelly Schroeder does have the amount of the repurchase. It's just not with her. And so if you are satisfied that she could get that to you later today. And the amount of
Yeah.
purchase is the back taxes and any penalty or fee that might be associated with that.
All right, thank you.
Does that work?
Yes, that would work. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion on the consent agenda? Hearing none, go ahead, Deb, and call the roll.
Commissioner Holland,
Yes.
Chair Moore,
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson,
Yes.
Commissioner Waldham,
Yes.
Commissioner Ludwig.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, so moving on to regular agenda, number one, Joint Drainage Authority Judicial Ditch 6.
Yeah, so we have a resolution to establish the Joint Drainage Authority for Judicial Ditch 6. So this would be with Isani County, Neva County, falls under the Public Drainage System statutes, which I'm sure our attorney is very familiar with. And so there would be 3 members from Isani, 1 from Kennebec, and Commissioner Moore was appointed at our last meeting. They'd have the authority to levy assessments to the benefiting properties. I'm guessing in Pine, it's less than a handful. Hard to say. Probably, I don't think it's very many. So if they were doing maintenance or improvements, so it's just operates the same as you do as a county board on our regular county ditches. So
Which township is that in?
Royalton.
Okay.
Yep. So any questions on that or?
So this is actually the very southwest corner of the county.
Yeah, and there was a map in there if you
Yeah, I didn't see it.
see it. Yeah, it comes in maybe at a northeast angle, maybe a half a mile and then north a mile. So
And Mr. Chair
Yes.
and Mark, has there been, like in Pine County's portion, have we done any maintenance on that ditch in the last, I don't know, 50 years?
well, in my 25 years, I just found out we had it probably
Okay,
years ago.
okay.
I can't go back. I remember Commissioner Carlson talking about the Swansons
Yeah,
Creek. Well, this is that's what they were talking about. And I don't know, I assume that was in the 70s.
yeah.
Kind of bring that up once in a while, and so there is an impoundment, on that Swanson property that the, Sandy County has a ditch inspector and he's been in contact with them because that is creating some issues and they're looking into whether that was issued by a permit or not. I don't believe it was, so. If you
Okay,
hear anything or any feedback that is kind of an impact to, county resident right now, so.
okay.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
So are they old federal ditches that just got turned back to the county, or did the county originally dig the ditch?
Yeah, I think these were dug for under this drainage law, I do believe. I don't know, Reese, if you got.
That's typically what happens, usually a judicial order, and you have these archaic statutes that govern these days.
Yep, and so most of them, I think, were built in the early 1900s. And the people paid, same process, they paid for them.
Was it for farming mostly, or?
Yep, yep. And so, we have 7 other ditches in the county and honestly, probably, one of them is an active agricultural area down in Pine City Township. The others, it's recreational property and it's a fight of, some people want the water impounded and some people don't. They might be, cutting hay or, something like that, but it's not, most of them really aren't agricultural. Although hay apparently is our biggest agricultural product, so I should take that back.
Is there, do we have any other ones that are joint with other counties that you know?
Well, I'm not sure. We've got one that goes into Kennebec County that 20 years ago, a
Okay.
person had interest, and I haven't done any more research on that. And so, it's like with any of the ditches, they just kind of disappear until there's a problem.
Okay. Anybody got any other questions for Mark or about?
I'll move that, Mr. Chair.
Okay,
I'll second it.
all right. We got a motion by Ludwig, second by Holland. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, go ahead, Deb, and call the roll.
Chair Moore,
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson,
Yes.
Commissioner Waldham,
Yes.
Commissioner Ludwig,
Aye.
Commissioner Holland.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to number 2, special meetings, committees of the whole.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, at the organizational committee or at the organizational board meeting, there was some discussion about getting a schedule of committee of the whole or special meetings set up. And so we are proposing May 13th at 10 a.m. at the North Pine Government Center for the road tour. And then it would start there and then tour the roads in the northern part of the county. And then also getting a special meeting on community-based services and proposing either the 25th of March or the 8th of April. And on that one, I don't have a location yet as we don't have a date confirmed. Once a date is confirmed, I thought I would check with the Osprey Wild Center as an option, and then certainly open to other suggestions. But if we get a location that's out somewhere, if you would like, we could invite the local, the surrounding townships and cities like we had done pre-pandemic, if that's your desire.
Okay. On either one of them, does anybody have any discussion on that?
I do. Just on the community-based services, does our Health and Human Services or whoever's involved in that, do they know an area where it would be advantageous to get the word out? You know what I mean? Or is it?
Yeah, I did talk to Becky on that one, and she thought that the Osprey Wilds would be a good location if it were available.
Okay.
So I don't know that there's a, I mean, I guess you might be thinking in terms of, are there providers or users of the services that might have a facility?
Yeah.
I can check back with her too.
Yeah, I remember filling in a meeting one time up north for somebody, and I was in Carrick, and they were people that were very interested in daycares and some other things. So, and I don't know if we ever reached back to that group.
I was just looking at my schedule, and April 8th is not gonna work for me. So if the 25th of March would work, that'd be better for me. I don't have to be there either, but. So if that would work for you guys, I would maybe propose the May 13th and March 25th.
March 25th is,
Tuesday. Last Tuesday in March.
yeah, that looks good.
Okay. We need a motion though, right? Yeah. Someone want to make a motion on that?
I'll move that.
Okay. So the motion is for May 13th at 10 a.m. in North Pine Government Center, and then March 25th at 10, and we're gonna reach out maybe up there.
Yep, I'll confirm a location.
Okay. Sounds good. Holland,
Yep.
you have a second?
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
on action requested, are we at the point of talking about number 3 as well on that?
Let's get a second here quick. Was that a second?
I'll second, yes.
Okay. All right, now we'll move into discussion. Do you want to, should we do the vote or do you want to do it now?
Mr. Chair, I think either way is appropriate.
Yeah.
There's helpful information to have regarding committee of the wholes or special meetings.
Yeah, go ahead, Commissioner Nelson.
Unknown caller.
I guess I was also thinking about, you asked about other special topics, locations. I think, after this, maybe we're talking June or whatever that would be. I'm thinking maybe we should do something about economic development. And specific, I know we talked about the broadband already last month, and we maybe have touched on cell phone coverage, and I think those are good sort of backbone things. but I also want to be able to move us to actual businesses, you know, what does that look like in the terms of our economy, particularly our maybe rural economy outside of, you know, the cities that we have. And so I got some ideas, maybe some places, not quite ready to say exactly where yet, because I'm still working on that, but somewhere in the 3rd district, sometime in June. Just an idea I want to throw out.
Okay. Yeah, if you want to coordinate with Dave, is that how we should do it? Yeah.
That's,
Just
that
one-
sounds good to me.
I agree.
And I think what we'll do is if you want to just kind of coordinate with Dave when you get, you know, some stuff figured out, and it might move, we might have to move it to a different month or whatever, but, but if you guys work on it and then we'll just come to the board with that.
And Mr. Chair, members of the board, we tended to keep these on Tuesdays just
Okay.
because that's a typical board meeting day. And so in the off Tuesdays in June are the 10th and the 24th. So if you wanted to just make notes to yourself that those might be 2 potential dates to consider.
Sounds good. Yeah, no, I appreciate it, and yeah, I'll look forward to hearing more about that and go from there. So, with that, has anybody else had any more discussion on this motion for these 2 dates? Okay, hearing none, go ahead, Devin, call the roll.
Commissioner Nelson,
Yes.
Commissioner Waldham,
Yes.
Commissioner Ludwig.
Aye.
Commissioner Holland,
Yes.
Chair Moore,
Aye.
thank you.
All right, now we'll move on to 2.1, which was the body cam discussion. It looks like we got Jeff here, Sheriff Nelson.
Mr. Chair, members of the board. So I was asked to, I'm bringing forward a renewal on the squad and body camera system that we're using, and to maybe remind everyone where we've been and where we're at here. So we originally went through the process of looking at the camera systems back in 2019, put out an RFP, took in the data from the companies that chose to put those out to us, and decided on going with the utility brand, and fully implemented that in 2020. So now we're coming up on 5 years in, and that triggers a renewal on the contract. So part of the reason we can discuss the benefit of having video in general, and also the particular company that we're continuing with, whatever way we want to go with that. But the reason we went with utility originally was pricing. It wasn't the cheapest, but it certainly was not the most expensive. But they had a lot of features built into the system that we've really seen the benefit of. Part of those is, well, we get squad cameras. So we have a front-facing squad camera, we have a back seat-facing squad camera, and then we have the body camera system that goes with that as well. There's automated features within the system. The holster, every time a deputy draws his gun, it triggers the camera, so they don't have to manually turn it on, which, again, less that an officer has to do while they're dealing with a threat is huge. So they don't have to think through turning on a camera and making sure they don't get in trouble for not having their camera on when they need it. It also has an officer down feature, whereas if the camera is laid horizontally for 30 seconds, it will trigger an alarm that there might be a problem with that particular deputy. So then that goes to dispatch, goes to all the other officers that are on in the area, so they know there could be an issue if that deputy isn't able to respond on the radio. There's reasons we need to get there quickly. It also has CAD activation features that, based on call type, once a deputy gets close to that proximity of where that call is, their cameras will trigger automatically as well. And again, all of that is to help make sure we get as much data as we can collected, and that the deputies don't have to go through an additional step to activate those cameras. So it really has helped a lot in that respect. And also everything's automated on the download side of it, which has been good too. So some of the other systems we looked at, you had to go dock your camera at the end of the shift and then it would go through a download process. And that took extra time, took extra processes. With the system we're using, it's an automated system. So as it's recording, once it's closed out, it's dumping through cell towers, and we have 3 waypoints on our different offices that increase the speed of those downloads as well. So the benefit is the deputies don't have to, but also the benefit is the deputies can't. So there is no way that a deputy can alter what's been recorded. Everything gets dumped automatically. And again, that's part of the benefit of having a camera system in general, is that officer accountability. And with the automations that are built in there, there is no way that we can be accused of altering what was done, recorded, and is part of that case now. So it's been a good system to work with. They've been really responsive on if a camera goes down, if something isn't working, returning things on a warranty. And, you know, their stated goal when we went with them was to 99% of the stuff that should be recorded is getting recorded. And as you can imagine, and with technology, there's always something that's willing to break or make it so you can't get everything you think you should. But they've been really good on doing their part to make sure that we have cameras that are working, to make sure the system is working. And again, it's been a good process with them.
Can you explain a time where the data that the camera captured really helped the county?
Yeah, and it's multifaceted. I would say probably 2 weeks after we fully implemented the system, we did get into a officer-involved shooting, and the camera system recorded obviously what it was supposed to, showed a pursuit that led up to the shooting where the suspect was acting very erratically and dangerous to the public. And then the actual shooting incident happened out in the freeway, and the squad camera and the body camera captured that, again, as it should. End result of that, the officer was cleared in his actions. There's been no pending litigation resulting from his actions. And I think if we did not have that camera system, I don't think we would have had that quick of an outcome on that, because there were witnesses that saw stuff that did not happen. And they were publicly giving their side of what happened in that incident, which was inaccurate. And I think that narrative would have carried further if we didn't have the data to back it up on our officers' actions and the outcome of that. So I truly believe that first incident we had within that first month paid for the system through what litigation costs would have been. So, and since then, from my perspective, it's proved invaluable, and whether it's getting evidence for casework, getting in a quick resolution to officer complaints. A lot of times we'll get calls from people that say, hey, your officer was a jerk, and can you do something about it? We'll watch the videos and say, well, we don't agree with that. Or again, if there was something that needed to be corrected on a deputy side, it's proven very valuable on both of those, either, you know, disproving or proving where we can improve or where things need to happen. So, and the feedback, not to speak for the county attorney's office or IT, the feedback I've gotten from both of those groups has been positive on, again, this system and data, the video data in general. And actually I've heard back from a judge who gave the same feedback of that, how invaluable that camera data is. And then also every 2 years, we have to have an audit done on the system and our data that we hold, and specific to the company that we're using, the individual that we've hired to do our
You have to retain that.
depends on the data, anywhere from 90 days minimum to lifetime.
The shooting would be forever, I'm guessing.
Yeah, yep, those kind of things will keep forever. And that's another benefit of the system we're with. We're not paying for storage, so we can keep everything forever. It's built into the contract, so we don't have those certain tiers. If we use more data, save more data, they're gonna increase the cost. It's all built into the initial contract.
I have one more question. Yeah, go ahead. What's the life expectancy of the new one?
So again, everything's warranted under the 5-year contract. So you pay for, the software as a service ongoing, you pay for the hardware as a lease, I guess it would be, because they guarantee that they'll replace it under warranty within those 5 years. And then once within the contract, we can ask for a hardware refresh, and they will send out all new system, and we can send on all of our old ones. So once within that 5 years, we did it once in the last contract as well. But to be honest with you, as good as they've been on the warranty side of it, we could probably turn over our cameras every year the way that it's been going. So that part's been very impressive on what they've stood behind.
So that's a fee we're just gonna have perpetually.
Unfortunately, yes. That is where TASER went with our TASER system. Our camera system is that annual fee based. I think all of them, pretty much every contract that we've got right now, I think has gone to that system. That method.
Have we've been paying a yearly?
We
fee?
have.
Do you recall what that was? Did
I
this
tried
go
to
up?
find it before I
Yeah.
came up here this morning, and I couldn't find the actual one. And what we did on that first one was we had, there was some money that was in the IT account.
Yep.
So we did a significant pay down at the beginning of the contract, so then those annual payments were less.
Yep.
Um,
And I remember back when, because we discussed this for a few years, wasn't it, before we actually got them?
Yeah, it was a process
Because
to
it
get
was-
here, and
it was
and
a
since
lot.
we've gone there, it's clearly the industry standard now. And I don't know that we could work without it.
Yeah.
Obviously, we could. But the expectation is it will be on camera for, again, defending our officers if it's a liability and presenting a case in court. I, again, don't want to speak for Reese, but I know there's cases that wouldn't have been prosecuted, or it would have been more litigated if there wasn't video evidence. And there probably would be cases that we would have lost if we didn't have that video evidence.
And I remember when we were going through this, we didn't have squad cameras. And
We had
that was,
nothing, right?
and that was like, that was bare minimum 5-6 years ago, was to have squad cameras, and we did not. And when we looked into it, adding the body cameras wasn't that much more to get into
Right.
it. And these all work together. It was all integrated, and it really was. But we went through a few budget cycles. I remember hearing the spiel a couple times about, just because, not that, like, I've advocated so many times that I'd love to just give you an open checkbook, because everything you do is for safety of public and your deputies and everything, but money is one thing, so that we
Understand that.
finally figured it out in the budget and added it, and yeah, I couldn't believe it when I got that call from David about that. And the first thing I think we were talking about was, were the body cameras working when that shooting happened? And they did. And I also think we probably don't even know the stuff it saved us, just on everyday things. You never know what you guys go through to have that backup, that they know there's a body camera, so they know they can't accuse you of anything, so.
Yeah, that's something you'll never know.
Yep.
But
Yep.
yes,
Yep.
thank you.
So, anybody else got any questions? You guys online?
Yeah,
Yeah, go ahead, Commissioner Reynolds. Go ahead, Roger.
Well, you guys have asked a lot of the questions already, but which is great. Maybe just a couple of them. One would be when it comes to operator control, is there the ability? Because it sounds like a lot of it's automated already, but is there any operator control to either turn them on when it's not, or to turn them off when it is? That would be my one question. And secondly, would be, I was going to ask you about how effective you thought they were, and obviously you spent a lot of time answering that question on the positive side. Is there any downside to this other than the cost, of course? But if you could maybe address that as well. So thanks.
Yeah, so there's a operator interface that turns it on and off. So the deputies do have the ability to turn off a camera, mute a camera, and do that through a couple different ways with the system that we use. There's a media controller that looks like a watch that you might see them wearing either on their vest or on their wrist. That allows them to control that system on and off, and a couple other features. And then the downside is anytime we create data, we're responsible for the data. So again, you've got the cost of the making that data available, which we've gotten fairly limited requests on that. But it does require us to redact some of that, which there's records people are spending some time in manipulating the data for release. And again, if we just said we don't have the data, then we wouldn't have to do that. But I think that having the data the benefit of that clearly outweighs the negative on having to produce that.
And I would just add, I remember in the discussions, that was one thing we were worried about, was the data and taking time to create the data, because you can't just put camera, you can't just put, someone requests something, you got to go through it and make sure children's faces are blocked off or whatever, however that works. But that's good to hear, because I didn't think of that, because I remember we were talking about that it could create, I think Ryan had a little concerned about, is this going to be something we're going to have to hire a full-time person to just handle this data? And I think the system you got was really friendly for that as well. So hopefully maybe that was part.
Yeah, it could be better. I mean, an automated system with AI that did it all for you and wouldn't have to touch it would be great. We're not there yet. But as far as the system goes, yes, it's usable on that part of it. And again, it's expected, and that's, good and bad. It is expected. And if you didn't have it, you'd have to be answering why you don't have it and why you haven't invested in technology that would have, provided for those different data sets and the good and bad that goes with it. So.
Great. Maybe my last question would be to circle back around to the cost again, because I know we're at 90,000 a year. But and even though I know you didn't know or right offhand where it was at, do we have any idea budget wise because you talked about it being front loaded? I get that, but do we know where it was last year on the budget? And
Looks like Kelly's got the answers.
Great.
I'm digging.
Well, so Kelly Schroeder, County Auditor Treasurer. So I can tell you by year what we paid them. So like in 2024, we only paid them $38,697. But like at the front of it in 2020, we paid them $242,000. So we had front loaded a lot of it, and then those payments in the inner years were smaller. So total we paid them since the start was about $409,000, but that also included adding some cameras for the jail to use.
Great. Okay, so then, still comparing apples to apples, it was 409,000 roughly for the first contract. This contract, we're talking about 450,000. So, so at least that gives me an idea of, because we all know things go up, but at least I have an understanding of how much relatively. Thanks.
So that's about a 10% increase over 5 years, which technology wise, that makes me feel a little better actually. But it's still not cheap. But yeah, okay. Anybody else online have any questions, you guys?
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Okay, go ahead, JJ.
Yeah, with it being, time always seems to help with everything. We have till June 30th. So I guess I would like to look at, getting some comparable quotes from other companies.
I think we did that already.
Yeah.
I did not do that this year. This, when it was done originally, in 2020 is when we did that.
Yeah, we got
Right.
presentations by a couple different, because you guys kind of vetted it down and then brought them to the county board, I think is what it, and
Right.
had a few more
Yep.
just presentations. So.
Yeah, and I would say, again, based on what I've talked to other agencies about, if you look at what's available and through the years, things have changed. Axon is probably the biggest in the nation. When we went through the RFP process, they were already starting to be the biggest. And all the feedback I got from agencies, I checked with Duluth, Rochester, some of those bigger departments, and one of their negatives with Axon was they already felt like they were a little agency for Axon, and they are 2 to 3 times more deputies or officers than we have. So obviously going into that kind of slanted me away from Axon. They've got good things going for them, but their cost was, I think, another 100,000 on top of what we were going to pay for this system. And then also there was, back in that day, WatchGuard was really big into the squad camera systems. And they took on, now I'm going to forget how that all happened. But there was a merger with them and someone else that was trying to get into the body camera system. So they became, the other bigger option in their area would be the WatchGuard. I've heard enough negatives that, again, I don't know that we would get any better cost or features if we did that.
And again, this is already budgeted.
Yes.
And your department, this is kind of one of them. We don't tell you what guns to buy or what uniforms to wear. That's kind of your deal. I think this is kind of one of them. So, you guys have already invested a lot into this.
And we've got the infrastructure where it interacts with our CAD system that, again, I think if we started with a new system, we would go backwards. And there would be the additional cost of restarting some of those again.
All right. Any other questions? Holland, you said no?
I have no more questions.
Okay. Anybody here? Or Ludwig, you got anything? No?
Good, thanks.
Okay. With that, did we have a motion? No, we didn't have a motion yet.
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
Is that the only item that wanted to be discussed?
Yes,
in that group?
just the body cam.
Okay, I'll second.
Okay. Is there any other discussion?
Well, just on, what I had said, is like anything, we got some time here to deal with this. I'd like to see another quote.
So would you like to see a whole nother presentation and go through this whole thing like an RFP process again? And at some point, are we gonna, are we gonna dedicate staff time to do all that? Or is there, okay,
And if I could add one other thing, I was going to wait until later in the year to bring it. But part of the reason I'm bringing it forward now is we are adding some of the, what they call the Rocket. It's their router that we use too, which we run our in-car computers out of. Our whole system is run through that now. We are going to add some of those for the investigative units, which are going to be getting built soon. So the reason I wanted to have the contract signed now was so we could pre-order some of the equipment that's going to be putting to the squads before we could put those out into the field. So that, again, it's not as maybe time sensitive, but it is time sensitive if we're going to continue with making our squads usable.
Is there additional fees to those parts?
No, that's part of the quote.
okay.
Yeah, there's a few Rocket, 3,750 for data storage, 6,240 for the coverage period, and then another 4,950 tied to the Rocket.
All right. So we have a motion and second. Is there any other discussion? Okay, hearing none. Deb, do you want to call the roll?
Commissioner Waldham,
I oppose.
Commissioner Ludwig,
Aye.
Commissioner Holland,
Yes.
Chair Moore,
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks,
So
Jeff.
we'll move on to commissioner updates, the AMC chair, vice chair training. We had a couple meetings. I did forget my notes and I had a lot of them. There was a lot of pretty good stuff there. So a lot of counties are talking about, some policies in place to just kind of, make things a little more, streamlined. A lot of it was talking about, obviously everybody knows there's a lot of political divide in the country. And I think as county commissioners, I'm pretty proud that we have stayed out of that. I mean, both legally and not, but because we are a nonpartisan group. And I think as you can see, anywhere where you get politics in place, as far as politically or as far as parties go, it turns into kind of a disaster. I don't think anybody can look at our state or a nation and see that a lot of real good work is coming out of there. Where here at the county level, we just bear down and do stuff, and none of the stuff we really get is political. So there are a few things that me and David been talking that we'll bring to the board here in the next couple months, maybe, just to look at some of that. I went to the day training, was in person. They had a panel. They had one county was talking about that dam that broke last year down in Blue Earth County, when they got all that rain, and the one commissioner said it went from, they got a bunch of rain to I think it was the county administrator was giving interviews to BBC over in Europe, so it was kind of a little bit of being prepared for stuff like that. We don't have no big dams here that I don't think is gonna cause us a lot of issues, but you never know. I mean, what can happen, what can go on, and just to be a little prepared. It also, a lot of that stuff made me feel good when you hear some of the issues and problems that people are having in other parts of the state, that we got pretty good staff and pretty good plans in place that already safeguard a lot of this, where they talk about some problem they had, and it was a huge problem, and they wish they had been more prepared. And I'll lean over and ask Dave, I'm like, well, don't we already have something like that in place? And he's like, yep, and such takes care of it, So it was pretty refreshing. If I learn much I mean, I learn a lot at these things, but one of the biggest things I learn is, man, we're pretty fortunate in this county. We have a lot of good things going and a lot of people that take good care of us. So it makes our jobs a lot easier. And I did miss the last one. I had another appointment that day, but I'll let David talk a little bit too.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The last video meeting was just focused on conflict resolution, and the University of Minnesota Extension presented on ways to just try to reduce conflict in public meetings and public engagement.
Now that you said that, the one thing I found interesting is, and I would assume our public person here wouldn't agree with this, a lot of counties don't allow public input at their county board meetings. And we talked about, and I talked to commissioners about it, and they're like, yep, nope, not a chance. Some of them, they limit the whole public input section to like 15 minutes or something like that. They limit each person, but I was like, wow, how do you handle public input? Because that is part of our meetings. It's something that we're real proud of here. I think we allow the public to communicate or to say their piece, whatever it is. And I had no appetite to cut that out for sure. But I like our process online so we don't get anything, you know, real crazy there too. And it's not hard for people to go online and give public testimony. But yeah, that was another thing I remembered. So. And then we did get together that one day in person with the new commissioners and, Roger was there. So that was kind of interesting. We had a lot of information on, open meeting law. It was funny. The first thing the gal did is put a big thing of a lot of money on the thing and it says, don't accept bribes. So, and the sad part is they have to tell you that. I don't know. That's where I was kind of disappointed. I'm like, the worst thing is you got to say that to somebody. But it was good. A lot of good stuff. So with that, we'll move into the new Commissioner 101 training. Commissioner Nelson, you want to talk about that?
Sure. As you talked about, I think, you know, they did emphasize the open meeting law and, you know, the do's and don'ts of that. So that was good to have that. I also think the next day there was a session on communication and how to communicate what's happening in your county, your story, to the public in a more effective manner. And we found that some counties have full-time staff, some have zero staff for that, and it falls to it kind of does fall to the commissioners as well. And so, you know, what does that look like? Also, they talked about the property tax system. They did like a whole session on that, which was new. It was a request that came out of our new commissioner quick meeting at the AMC convention in December that I attended there just briefly. So it was a very good overview of the property tax system, it's complicated. There's no doubt about that. But at the same time, I think that sort of fits with that whole communication piece. You have to sort of understand it before you can communicate to the public because everybody's situation is unique, but it all is part of the system. The other thing maybe I just wanted to highlight was meeting with new commissioners, some that are close in proximity to us, some that aren't. And it kind of overlapped with the night before with some existing commissioners that we have joint powers with, Isanti, Kennebec, and Chisago as well, and even Carlton. So it was kind of nice to see those faces, to sort of make that initial connection, along with some commissioners that we got to meet that are clear across the state. So that was good. And maybe the role of AMC, again, you can get very involved or not involved, but I think you have to have some level of involvement. It is maybe my takeaway from that. And they do have good resources, so that was good to see. So and David was there virtually the whole time that I was there, so I'm sure he's got a few things to add too. So
I would just like to make one comment too.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just to support the public comment part.
Yep.
I think we have to, for me, it's a have to be so the public needs a voice. And what better place for them to come here and just talk right to us.
Yep.
So I really support that.
Yep.
Yeah, and Mr. Chair, I might just extend, Roger, some appreciation to you for noting the role that commissioners have in our communication, because we don't have dedicated staff. And so, they had Hennepin County and Olmsted County. No, I'm sorry, Hennepin County and St. Louis County presenting with their public information staff, and their resources are phenomenal. And the rest of us sit there and kind of scratch our heads because we don't have that, right? And so I appreciate the fact that as commissioners, you're very engaged. And when people come to meetings, it's rare that someone comes to speak at open forum and they haven't had some interaction with a commissioner on that topic.
I'd like to add too, that you also do articles for the newspaper every now and then and explain some of the process, which I think is great. And you've done that. You've done a number of those.
Yeah, and other staff do that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Reese and Jeff are on the radio regularly.
Yeah.
And that,
Reese just had a great letter not very long ago.
I sat through that one too, and that was very interesting, the communication piece, and actually had a conversation with David about maybe trying to do a little more, and then we did talk a little bit about, even the sheriff, his Facebook page is very active, and a lot of times they put even non-sheriff related stuff on there just because it gets out to so many people in the area. And like you said, the newspaper stuff, I think in this area, a lot of people still do use the newspaper, the actual print newspaper, for a lot of good information. So it is good to get it out there, but there is a lot of communication without having, I mean, even in Hennepin County, that gal was talking about, she looked for news stuff every single day. I mean, in Hennepin County, you'd think that it just kind of falls on your desk every single day, and she had to go search for it. So to have a dedicated communication person probably isn't, for Pine County, isn't something that crucial, but it is important, and communicating the right things out there too. I mean, like you said, Commissioner Nelson, it's great to have the interactions, but you gotta know what you're talking about, and AMC does really give some great information, and it's pretty high level with a lot of detail, so we're not, we're not the Kelly that has to know ins and outs everything, but when you have a conversation with somebody, it's nice to know somewhat what you're talking about. So I do appreciate it. It's invaluable. So, and to commit them 3 days is a lot. I mean, it's a lot to get done. So thank you. Let's move on to Highway 23 Coalition.
Yeah, that was a Zoom. That was a Zoom meeting. I brought up again that, they talk about the death trap and why they need the 4 lanes. I guess when I got into this, I was looking at Highway 23 as a whole, especially with them wanting Pine County to be involved. There's still a stretch up by Nemadji River where apparently there's a test well people have told me about. It's right off the shoulder. It's not barricaded. It could be struck and hit by a car. I brought that up again. I guess I'm just beginning to wonder what we get out of this in Pine County, and when we pay again, because I think we pay a membership for this. Why would we continue to be that? They talked about just some bank reconciliations, I guess, for their accountability. I thought that part of it was good, though, to be accountable for the money. Their money market account was actually down 7,500, but it looked like it was just switching money around. They had actually put it into checking, so that checked okay. That is about what I got out of it.
All right. NLX.
NLX was another Zoom meeting, same day. They just talked a little bit about maybe some changes going on the federal side with some of the funding. There was a Representative Cagle and her puppy who were on the meeting, and they were just worried about Trump being mean. There's also mentioned file 250, where there's some senators that are questioning the existence of NLX. That was Senate File 250. That's all I got out of that meeting.
Are they still moving ahead or what's the deal? Do they have funding or what's kind of going on as far as that goes?
From what I understood, yeah, they're still, have the money that was given to them. They're just now questioning what's going on the federal side, with the new administration in Washington.
Okay. Housing Redevelopment Authority, Economic Development Authority, HRA and EDA.
I was sick.
Matt, you want to take that one? Oh, you weren't there, Matt? Okay. Yeah, the only thing I had from that, and I worked with David through this, and then an actual board member on HREDA, there was some question on some tenant's lease, and she had some trouble understanding her contract a little bit, why her rates went up. And then the North Court is full in Finlayson, full of tenants, which is good. David, is there anything you'd like to add with the HRA-EDA that I might have missed?
No, I think you covered it, and I also was unable to attend that meeting.
Okay. Or Leslie, if she had anything. So that's what I got out of that.
Okay. Joint Radio Advisory Committee, Emergency Communications Board.
Chief Deputy Grice attended that.
Okay.
And I didn't get a update from him.
Okay. Sounds good. Pine County Zoning Board,
No report.
no report. Canceled Snake River Watershed, Lakes and Pines.
Yes, we had a meeting, bunch of contracts that people have. We talked some about fuel assistance and how that's rolling out this year. It's a little better than it has been. But of course, the on again, off again federal monies that of course every program Lakes and Pines does relies on the grants, and even though they direct service to people, they're the intermediary. So there was some question there. I think they got it ironed out now, but one of the big things Lakes and Pines does is Head Start. And so that was in question for a few days, but I think all's good now for now.
Commissioner Holland, I was kind of interested. I just thought about it when you were talking about Lakes and Pines, but in that broadband meeting we had, there was a little discussion about, Lakes and Pines supporting some internet for low income. Have you guys really talked about that? I know most of in this county, we just need everybody to get broadband, but and hopefully, I mean, what I got out of that meeting is in the next couple of years, we're gonna be sitting pretty good. But have you guys as a board maybe talked about internet at all?
That not really,
Okay.
but we have not officially probably, but we
Okay.
have talked because there are some grants that would come to an agency like Lakes and Pines to help buy down the cost of internet for people, I don't know what the 200% of poverty or something. But as far as I know, they're not into doing that at all right now.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, I'd be curious to stay updated on that, just because, like I said, I
Yeah.
think that's one of the things that we needed to cross that line that says internet ain't just for YouTube and video games. It is
Right.
the function in this society nowadays it's important. So,
Yep.
Okay, cool. Lower St. Croix Watershed Partnership.
Yes, we had a meeting and approved some work plans and grants and just in case you guys do hear, there was about a little over $500,000 that got for projects that went to all the other counties in the Lower St. Croix except Pine. So I asked about that and they have to divide it up somehow. So they took this money that was available, gave it to mostly Washington and Chisago, because that's where the bulk of the, the entire county is in that watershed. There's a grant coming that should be out in June that will be dedicated just to Pine County. And of course, that's just the part of Pine County that's in the lower St. Croix watershed. So mostly Rock Creek and a little bit of Pine City Township.
Okay. Sounds good. Technology committee was canceled. Central Minnesota E EMS.
Yep, we had our meeting last Friday. New advisory board, so that's done. And Dr. Kangy was there. He went first, and the talk with EMS being totally reworked. Well, the meeting was happening that afternoon, so there's more to come on that. But he said that he expects progress, and the talk is pretty good as far as supporting the ambulance services and stuff like that. So we moved on, and then the other thing, the bulk of our discussion was about making Central EMS a training site and purchasing all the stuff to go with it, the airways, the ambu bags and all that for infants, adults and that whole thing. And then that decision wasn't made. It was just a big discussion because there's going to be a lot of equipment we have to purchase. And then at the same time, when that equipment sits there, if say Pine County wanted to do it, they could check that equipment out, bring it over here. Whoever does their training, they could do it that way. So that there's more to come on that too. Other than that, it was a pretty quick meeting. So we didn't have a lot. We're really waiting to see what's going to come with the funding. So hopefully we'll hear something.
Sounds good. Towards zero death.
Yes, we had a meeting yesterday, went over some statistics, statewide, traffic deaths are trending, where we don't want to see them. So, we'll keep an eye on that. In Pine County, of course, the year just started. We have not had a fatality as of today, if that's still correct, Jeff. And they didn't have the figures for last year, but we are doing some good things in Pine County. Our sheriff's department was there, the highway patrol was there, MnDOT was there, our county engineer was there, representatives from EMS and Essentia Health were there. So we had a good coverage, I think, and a lot of the things that can help with traffic deaths, we've like the striping program that we've got going on in our county that we started a few years ago. If you haven't noticed those ground, when they put now, instead of a 4-inch white stripe, they actually grind in to the pavement so they can get bigger beads that are more reflective and last, so the snow plows going over the top of them, and they really show up at night. Those kinds of things statistically have proven to be great helps. Talked about probably education still being a key. Crosswalks are still a problem, kind of a lack of understanding of what a crosswalk is for the people that drive and maybe for the people that are walking. So anyway, we are looking for a county coordinator for Towards Zero Death. It's kind of a volunteer position, but you might be able to get a little stipend out of a grant if you know of somebody that is a good organizer. It would be probably a good little part-time gig for somebody. That's it.
Okay. Anybody got any other meetings they went to?
The only thing I have, Mr. Chair, is the security committee meeting that's coming up.
Okay.
I have to cover the juvenile meeting. So I don't know who, I was just looking to see if there's I know Grice,
Okay.
I'm gonna miss that one because Terry's in Arizona, so I have to cover that.
Okay. Sounds good. All right, moving on to other. Does anybody got anything other they want to add to the agenda? Okay, otherwise take a peek at your upcoming meetings and, there's quite a few on there. And, sounds good. I'll declare the meeting adjourned.
Chair.
Thank you.
Chair.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Yeah, see you guys.
Yeah.